Many residents of Virginia, including, people around Cumberland County and so on, we're faced with a major environmental problem, that being a major mega landfill wanting to come into Cumberland County. The concerns we have about this, because we've been fighting it for over 6 years now, is that it will in fact affect our environment. There's environmental justice issues, there's water issues, there's traffic issues, there is earthquake issues. Because matter of fact, Powhatan County just had an earthquake on July the 25th that was very close to the landfill site, and people living in the landfill area actually felt their houses shaking, things falling off shelves and everything else. So this isn't something that just affects Cumberland County. It affects all of our surrounding counties and anybody that gets water off of the James River, because if the local water gets contaminated, the water is going to flow into Muddy Creek, and then it's going to flow into the James River, and that's going to affect over 1 million residents just in Richmond City and in Henrico County. So what we're looking to do today with this podcast is to get more people involved with our concerns, because we need to protect our environment, not only for our generation, but also for future generations. So we have members of the leadership team of CCLA here that stands for Cumberland County Landfill Alert, and we have been fighting this issue for over 6 years now. And the thing is that we don't need this to come into our county and affect not only us, but all of the state of Virginia. We have water issues. Many of the people here, all the people in Cumberland County are in private wells, except for the little hamlet of Cumberland. And it's on city water. But some of these wells are shallow, some of them are deeper, and they all present problems. Right, Ron?
That's true. There's two aquifers, a higher and a lower one. A lot of the older residents in our area have wells that are only 35 to 50 foot deep. Most of your average wells are around 160 to 180 feet deep, and the deeper aquifer is 300 foot plus. So people all depend on water from the ground sources, and with the plumes from a leakage in the landfill, surface water contamination running off into the creeks and waterways, it is inevitable that contamination of the wells will occur. It's devastating. A well can cost you $5,000 and upwards just to get a new well drilled, and we have no assurances that contamination will not occur and that our wells are safe. The federal EPA has declared that, on average, every landfill leaks approximately 10 gallons of leachate per day per acre. So with a 100-acre landfill, we're looking at a large amount of liquid leaking into the ground that will find its way into our aquifers. People are concerned. This is a serious problem. The hydrologist from the landfill company has stated that the runoff will be in the western direction from the property. That involves two major runoffs that run parallel to Brown Road and along the northern boundary of the landfill. One is just the unnamed year-round waterway that flows fairly low, and the other is Muddy Creek. The runoff from surface will get both of them, and it's undetermined which one would get the contamination from a leakage. If the leakage continues in the westward direction, which they're indicating, I have with me a basic drawing of the area showing only a 2-mile radius. They're making their statements taking into consideration 5 miles. In that 2-mile radius, there's 363 homes just in Cumberland itself. This does not include the Powhatan section, the western portion of Powhatan, which is undergoing a major expansion at this time with new housing developments. So these people are looking at serious problems in the future, losing their water quality, having to drill new wells, and suffering severe medical problems based on the contamination the water is carrying. So it's my concern primarily. I'm 5/8 of a mile away from the landfill. I'm not in the direct flow according to them, but that's their hydrology saying which way it's going to go. Mother Earth does what she wants. And once
we also have some scientific analyses that contradict what the landfill hydrologist has said, that they did not probe the groundwater system far enough. They used very outdated methods. So we really don't know until we use the most up-to-date methods what the groundwater impacts will be. And this is, like you said, it's an issue for all of Virginia. Cumberland County currently has very high water quality. It would really be a loss to, lose the ability to live there or camp. There's a lot of natural resources. People come to visit, to use our parks. We have a state forest, a state park, and of course the James River. Contamination of the water is something that would impact not just Cumberland, but everyone who would use it in Virginia. So this is very critical.
To carry out on that thought for a second, Henrico County just recently built a massive reservoir in Cumberland County, which is upriver from the location of the landfill. Now, they spent all this money to entrap water to replenish the James River during times of low water levels, and Henrico provides water to all their citizens off the James River and also sells water, I believe, to Richmond. Now, if they got this clean water they captured upriver from the landfill and then we contaminate it, all their money they went into providing safe, secure water source for their population is going to be destroyed by leakage from our landfill. Lawsuits could arise out of that, could be devastating to the county.
I think what people in Virginia don't realize is Virginia is number 2 in the nation for importing trash from elsewhere, even out of the country. This Green Ridge development says that they are going to keep everything locally in Virginia, but it's also said in the same time that they want to be able to replace landfills that are, their life is Charles City and Amelia, 25 years. But those landfills take trash from out of state. So that tells me that Green Ridge will, sooner or later, when they expand, bring trash from out of state, which is the opposite of what they're saying right now. And it's a concern for all of Virginia. First of all, Virginia has to stop landfills, period. We can't keep taking everyone else's trash. Virginia's a beautiful state, but to hear how many landfills are in Virginia and they're number 2 in the nation is very upsetting.
And the building of a landfill creates a market for increasing trash disposal in Virginia. It's not driven by our local needs. They're creating a market to bring in out-of-state trash every time they construct one of these landfills, and it's been quite a while since there's been a new one. So the general public feeling and the market need has been going the other direction. This would be a change for the worse.
Green Ridge right now is saying that we need this. We need it badly. Well, right now they're down to only 75 trucks a day. That to me isn't even profitable for them. Cumberland County is getting one of the lowest tipping fees. I think you said of $1.50 a ton.
We're getting $1.50 a ton, which equates to approximately $30 per tractor trailer coming in.
It's 25% of the closest landfill in Amelia.
Right. Amelia was getting $3.75 with annual increases, so they're probably well over $4 and a quarter now, and we're starting at $1.50. Yeah. The county's not going to prosper very well off that.
No. The county can take 75 trucks, and we can take our trash to Amelia, Charles City, or other ones that are still working without having to bring a new one in. 75 trucks a day does not warrant the need for a landfill in Cumberland or even in Virginia.
Well, their statement that they're going to take just Virginia trash, I find a lot of heartache with that and disbelief because of our close proximity to North Carolina. North Carolina State adds a $3 fee per ton on trash dumped in their statewide landfills. So county waste can have their trucks collecting North Carolina trash, run it up here into our landfill, saving $3 a ton that they would have had to pay to North Carolina plus whatever the fee for the tipping is at that landfill, and paying us the pence of $1.50.
Well, they're telling us it's not coming from out of state, but all North Carolina does is hit the first transfer station in the state. redo the paperwork, and then send it on. No one will ever know it's from North Carolina unless you sit and go through the trash and see where the addresses and stuff are from.
That's a true statement, but nobody's going to do that.
No.
Yeah.
No, and we've asked DEQ for a very defined statement defining out-of-state trash. There's a big loophole in the current regulations with DEQ in that it does not identify out-of-state trash. So therefore, it lets things wide open for tractor and trailers to come in from New York, New Jersey, Baltimore, or wherever, come into a transfer station within Virginia, change tractors for the trailer, and bring it into Green Ridge. And we never knew the better, but our state legislators have refused to give us a good, clear definition for out-of-state trash.
I have to ask, why is it New York and New Jersey doesn't want their own trash? If they don't want it, why would we want it? We don't want our own trash, but do you see us exporting it to another state? Handle what we have in our state, take care of our own state, and leave the other states out of it.
Well, the problem is up in New England states, you cannot develop a new landfill.
Mm-hmm.
I've done the research on New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, and the conditions to build a new landfill is so prohibitive that it's not economically feasible at all. So the regulations up there stop any new landfills and development of landfills, and thus they have to force their trash to go somewhere else. And at times, Virginia was known for throwing their arms wide open and saying, give it to us. Well, now we're at the point where keep it yourself. We don't want it no more.
GFL is nationwide or U.S.-wide. So you know good and well that they're in New York, they're in New Jersey, they're in all the surrounding states. Originally, it was going to be 550 miles away.
Yep.
So it's, 21 states it would involve?
500-mile radius would have taken all the way up into the southern portion of Canada.
Okay.
That we could get trash from out there.
So you know GFL, and when they run out of landfills in these states, where are they going to go? They're going to go to their sister companies and dump their trash.
Exactly.
And see, that's the thing. If these states don't have their own laws that they can take care of their own trash, then I really think we should have a federal law that if you have the trash, it's here in the state of Virginia, then we should be able to destroy it here in the state of Virginia. And i.e., the state of New York should be able to take care of their own trash, and they got the rolling hills of New York. They can take and destroy that the same way they can come into Cumberland County and destroy our rural living, our way of life, increase health issues and everything else. Let each state be responsible for their own trash.
Exactly. They should be able to regulate themselves and control their own trash disposal. Another problem I have with this landfill is the fact it's built on the second largest seismic activity zone in the state of Virginia. In 2011, we had an earthquake that originated from this seismic zone. It was centered in Mineral, Virginia area that was felt all the way up to Canada. It devastated buildings in Louisa County, destroying their schools and other buildings. Recently, we had an earthquake down in the Tavern Road, Route 60 area. It was a 2.3 that, like was said before, it was felt in our area. Now, they want to build a landfill on top of an area that's seismically active. And they want to drill and blast the hole for it, the cell. This was never addressed during consideration for acceptance of this. And I don't think it's a real good idea to be blasting on top of a seismic active zone and maybe initiating an earthquake. They can't say that won't happen, and I can't guarantee it will happen, but I sure would not want to see it happen.
This is massive wetland, too.
Yes.
And as we've had a very, very wet season, I even question them. They say, oh, well, the creeks are within their boundaries and stuff like this. You can't tell me there wasn't major flooding this year with all the rains we have gotten and everything overflowed. So all that water that was creeks is flowing everywhere. So it can...
And that brings up a very valid point. We talk about this, and this was started back in 2018. At that time, our Board of Supervisors signed what was known as a host agreement. And over the last six plus years, there's been many changes made by Green Ridge and submitted to DEQ for approval. Yet our Board of Supervisors has not been involved in any of those discussions. And so therefore, we're looking at a lot of discrepancies between what's in the host agreement and what's being submitted by Greenridge to DEQ. And for instance, one of these things is initially the plan that was approved by the Board of Supervisors called for 2 cells with over or close to 500 acres in cells. Well, through the process of trying to get the water permit through DEQ, the Army Corps of Engineers, and EPA, it became too expensive for Greenridge to apparently do this, and so they have decreased their cell size from over 500 acres now down to 104 acres. However, when we look at the diagram of where they want to put this 104 acres, which, by the way, has not been approved by the county, it's very close to our perennial streams and our wetlands, and therefore that increases the probability of contamination of our waterways and our private wells.
Yeah, they changed the shape of the cell when they had to redesign it to avoid wetlands to simply go outside of all of the perennial streams to avoid the regulation that they're not allowed to destroy them. But how in the world could you build that shape, that design, and not have it impact the streams? And it's also very close to the flood zone, which you're talking about, of course, because it's very close to perennial waterways. It's, that is not a line whereby, it only floods on one side of it and it doesn't on the other. It's very dangerous to build something so close to perennial waterways. They're just putting it inches away from that dangerous area, a disposal area, which, state regulations make it illegal to build on top of perennial streams, but 10 feet away is
But they also, in question about their expansion in the future, they said, oh, well, we will mitigate a stream. If we have to, we'll cover it up. We'll remove it.
We'll fill it.
We'll fill it. So then you've altered the flow of Mother Nature with water. So what are you doing there? Look at all these subdivisions that come in, and they all wind up having some type of water flooding because you've interrupted the flow of Mother Nature, and it starts affecting everybody. You just cannot keep interrupting Mother Nature. It's going to find a way around.
And you can't expect the regulatory authorities to take that into consideration. They told us they don't. They look at the plans for the landfill, and that's it. They don't look at, and the stormwater mitigation on the site. They do not look at any other downstream effects like that. It's just not in that. But that is what is going to impact everyone.
Yeah. And when you ask people of Richmond, what do you think about this? Oh, well, it's not, it's not going to affect us. I said, well, all your water comes down from us to the city of Richmond, and it is going to impact you. You already have sewage problems when it floods in Richmond. What are you going to have when you have it already contaminated upstream coming downstream?
And we don't have to have imagination for that. I mean, we can look at the Bristol situation and see how problems with the landfill can cause very complex issues for people far outside of the perimeter of where the landfill is. It affects, in Bristol, it was affecting people in another state. Their water was also contaminated, and they had to deal with air quality issues. It's absolutely not localized.
Yeah.
Well, there's regulations in place also that say they're supposed to do a 100-year flood survey every so many years. Cumberland County did not have it done. And when we pushed and pushed and pushed for it, a slight variant of a floodwater study was done, and that was an aircraft flyover. And that did not put people on the ground to see where the streams swell out in flood areas or anything along that line. And it's something that needs to be done. Our Board of Supervisors needs to become more proactive and involved in decision-making like that, not to just pass it off and, take the word of Greenridge as to this is not going to be a problem. It is going to be a problem. Otherwise, Greenridge would not have changed the entrance to the landfill so that they no longer have to use Maple Swamp Creek access, because that was extensive wetlands that would have cost them a lot of money to run the road in that way. So they go and change the entrance to the landfill to utilizing Pine Grove Road, which passes through a environmentally sensitive area, environmental justice primarily, and affects dozens of people on that road. And they did it without the Board of Supervisors being involved in the decision whatsoever. That's a problem.
Well, Green Ridge is doing this because they put a clause in the host agreement that Board of Supervisors can't frustrate. So
That's
they
true.
think they cannot speak, they cannot voice their opinion, nothing. And that creates a major problem because here it is, Cumberland Board of Supervisors is supposed to be working for the people of Cumberland County. And the people are saying in Cumberland County they do not want this landfill. And this Board of Supervisors cannot go to Green Ridge and say, we don't want it. The people don't want it. We don't want it. It's creating too many problems. It's going to create a lot of problems down the future. But 2 boards ago is the one who accepted this. And we can't say anything. They come in with all these changes, and we have to just nod our head and go,
On the subject of the host agreement, it states in that document that the Board of Supervisors are required to support Green Ridge in attempt to get permits. It goes so far as to say if a person brings a new business to Cumberland County, the Board of Supervisors have to talk to them to recommend county waste in Green Ridge for disposal of their trash. Now, I don't believe our Board of Supervisors are supposed to be salesmen. They're supposed to be representatives of the people. So the host agreement is a very unconscionable document. It so greatly favors county waste in Green Ridge that it is a illegal document. It should be rewritten and reviewed from the start. When Amelia processed their host agreement for the landfill they have, over 100 line items were addressed by the board with the owners of the landfill. Cumberland County Board of Supervisors, 2 supervisors groups ago, in their ultimate wisdom, had 3 items to address. 3, and 2 of them were pertaining to coal ash.
Yeah.
Now, were they so naive that they thought that Green Ridge was going to be a blessing, that county waste was just going to, treat us honorably and with equality? Or were they just ignorant to the situation completely?
Board of Supervisors only heard dollar signs.
True.
Promises and promises, but those promises at 75 trucks a day cannot be met.
No. People don't realize that our Board of Supervisors in 2014 sought out this company. Green Ridge landfill didn't exist prior to that. County Waste, who owns the landfill, has no experience with landfills in any state, anywhere. They have never owned and operated one. Now, their people have, but some of their people have so many environmental violations, they shouldn't be allowed to be anywhere near landfill operation. It's sad to say that you don't get the highest quality people. You get the highest quality as far as making the money, and that's all they care about.
Yep.
And obviously, looking at what they want to pay the county per tonnage, it's not beneficial to us. And I think another really important factor to look at is that this has been going on for over 6 years now, and Cumberland County is actually doing better than what it was in 2018.
Well, when Cumberland County Board of Supervisors took away the tree tax, that brought in $440,000 that year, which was money that the county didn't have prior to that.
In which we have every year coming in now.
Yeah.
Instead of allowing a tax break to forestry landowners.
And most of those were corporations out of state.
65% of the property owners that had land in forestry were non-residents out of state.
Yeah.
There was only 170 residents in the Cumberland County that were enrolled in the program.
And that's because they have a law that doesn't allow us to separate out corporations from residents.
Yeah, the forestry
differently.
Forestry tax, just like the agricultural tax break, is regulated by the Virginia Tech, and efforts were made to get it restricted to just county residents, but that was denied because the way the policy is written, anybody that owns land that has enough acreage can get in the program no matter who they are and where they're from.
Back in November of 2023, DEQ issued a conditional permit for Green Ridge to go on ahead and start pursuing their Part B application. This is after Green Ridge submitted information to DEQ that contained changes that only pertain to Green Ridge and not to the entire document. This was, Greenridge submitted this in August of 2023. Here we are a year later, and they still haven't submitted any additional information except for the air permit application.
So you're referring to they were required by DEQ as part of this conditional approval to submit some additional information, and it's still been a year and they haven't complied with that condition.
Correct. And one of the key things in that letter that DEQ sent to Greenridge, and we have to keep this in mind, the site has not been approved. The site
has to be approved as part of the regulation, the state regulations. The DEQ has to say, based on specific criteria, that it is a site that is suitable for a landfill, and that is before they are allowed to submit their Part B application.
Correct.
There has to be a site suitability determination, and that has not occurred. So this process is going through DEQ without the conditions that they stipulated being met and without the site suitability being determined.
Correct. And you have to imagine DEQ is getting probably pretty tired of dealing with this. It's been over 6 years now, probably close to 7 or 8.
Which is unusual for one to drag out so long.
Right. Because, and I think it's also key to recognize that this is the third landfill that has sought to be set in, take place and come into Cumberland County. And the other 2 were defeated, and we're doing everything we can to defeat this one. The other thing that we have to look at also is the traffic concerns, and it's worth noting that Pine Grove Road is also an area.
It's a 2-lane rural road.
It's a 2-lane unmarked rural road.
That's right.
And it's also very, very extremely close to a national and state historical marker of the Pine Grove School, which is a key factor here because per regulation, I don't think that a landfill can be this close to a historical landmark.
I believe there's some restrictions to that. One of the big concerns is, again, going back to the water. When Pine Grove School comes back up as a educational center and meeting center, community center, they bring their well back online. That's within a mile of the landfill. You cannot have a landfill within a certain distance of a public well. So that's going to create problems in that line. But on the subject of the traffic, Route 60 is the primary road to access the landfill. In 2018, I think it was, Senator Hager pushed onto a bill by Senator Peake where they were going to do a traffic study of 60 from Route 522 in Powhatan all the way through Cumberland. Peake's original bill was all the way from Chesterfield to the termination of 60. Hager pushed to get it a special segment examined closely, and that was from 522 through Cumberland. The final results of this study was that the road rated an F. Every intersection, every driveway, every bit of that road would have to be changed. It would have to go from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane road. It would have to have a required breakdown shoulder lane. That would impact everybody along that road's property.
The traffic on that road has increased. I moved here in 2017, and I promise you it's increased tenfold.
Well, I moved here in 2004, and I know of at least 8 deaths, fatalities, due to traffic accidents on that road. And one of them was caused by a trash truck where the driver was leaving Amelia, taking a different route to his pickup point, fell asleep at the wheel, and hit 2 other tractor trailers head on. And that's right down the Powhatan line area.
And we've had multiple accidents just this year alone.
Yep, we have.
Powhatan with deaths.
Yep.
And it's not going to just increase the truck traffic on 60, which would be more than it can handle right now, but also the roads that feed into it that are primarily residential, like 522 and 45. So what was
well, 522 would be a primary route for trucks coming from the northern part of the state off 64 to come down, hit 60, and run up to the landfill. Or alternatively, trucks coming from the northern part or western part of the state could come 64 to 15 and run 15 down to 60 and come straight down 60 through Buckingham County, right through the center of Cumberland County, and onto the landfill. These are all 2-lane roads.
Or they could
And
branch
45.
off on 6th and come through Columbia,
That's true.
which is even a worse road.
Well, they could come out of George's Tavern, run 45 down through Cartersville, which is a horrendous road with its turns and switchbacks and hills.
Correct.
I mean, you barely get around the logging trucks that are always up there. Can you imagine a constant flow of trash trucks?
Well, as a user of Pine Grove Road to get to 60 and turning left on 60 right now to get into Midlothian or Chesterfield, sometimes I'm waiting for probably 3 or 4 minutes until traffic closes both ways. And if we have trash trucks on 60 trying to get into Pine Grove Road, it's going to be bad.
And they made note that there is no necessary requirement for a turn lanes there.
Nope.
That's right. They stated there'd be no requirement for a left turn lane coming out of Pine Grove Road onto 60. Just imagine trucks and vehicles coming 55, 60 miles an hour headed east, or headed west rather, on 60, and all of a sudden encountering a tractor trailer pulling out in front of them and having to go through the gears to get up to speed.
And the accidents that have occurred on 60 completely stops the flow of traffic.
Oh, yes.
Emergency vehicles cannot get through without going all the way around 13. And if there's a lot of elderly people that live in Cumberland. So imagine what's going to happen with emergency crews trying to get in for fires, medical, or anything else if there is a wreck on these roads.
Well, it's really bad. My son drives a truck for a paving company. It's a very large work truck. He's a mechanic, and he rolled it over in Powhatan, and 60 was shut down for 7 hours because of the truck being turned over, all the tools and equipment, everything that came off the truck. It took him that long to clean the road up, and that caused everybody to reroute around across over to the old 13 and up 13 into Cumberland.
And that's a very small road.
That's a nasty little road in itself. And now you're taking all the truck traffic and everything else off 60 and putting it on routes they're not familiar with. You know, it's a dangerous situation being developed. The
Very true.
yeah, the trucks are going to be a problem, a serious problem. We have a lot of, like you say, elderly people and a lot of young students, high school kids, that travel to Powhatan for part-time jobs after school that are not that well experienced or have lost their reaction time to traffic situations. When they did the study to determine if the road was suitable for the development of this landfill, it was during COVID. Businesses were shut down, schools were shut down, they're at-home learning. Traffic was minimalized because the economy had basically shut down. And they did the study during that time period. That didn't take in consideration all the school buses, children traveling back and forth to work part-time jobs, all the commuters going to and from Cumberland to get to work in Chesterfield, Midlothian, or wherever, right? So their numbers are skewed in their favor by doing the study during that time period. And it needs to be redone completely again.
I don't trust Green Ridge at all with this landfill. They have done everything they can to keep it quiet. They had an August the 5th community meeting. They sent out less than 50 letters. They said that they put an ad in the Farmville Herald. And I said, I didn't get a letter. Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't get a letter.
Yep.
I saw the advertisement in the Farmville Herald. It's probably one of the smallest ones you could buy. It was.
And how
it
many
was small.
people read the Farmville Herald?
Very few. Cumberland has almost no distribution of the Farmville Herald.
So I asked Mr. I think it was
Shoemake.
at the August the 5th meeting, could he please in the future, since they said they would have more community meetings, make sure that more of us got notified? He said, well, we figured with what we did and putting it in the Farmville Herald that social media would carry it. And I looked at him, I said, social media did carry it because we made sure it got it.
The other thing about that August 5th meeting, and we're talking about this Green Ridge landfill, it was mentioned numerous times that Jerry Cipher, the project manager, this is his legacy. Well, we don't need to be concerned about Jerry Cipher and his legacy. We need to be concerned about protecting our environment for our health, our rural living, and everything else.
I don't want this to be the legacy that takes Cumberland County down.
No. And that's a proven fact whenever you look at landfills from other areas and somebody's bringing up health issues. It doesn't take much to contaminate the water sources. in ground. We had a geologist study done that said that the liner that Green Ridge is projecting using, and probably even if it's a double liner, because of the makeup of the bedrock of the water system, it can still be pierced. And we spoke just a little bit ago about the earthquake in Powhatan. If the landfill would have been in existence with a 2.5 earthquake, there's a good chance that that lining that Green Ridge is proposing would have been pierced, contaminating our water.
And on that point, and like what you're saying about we can't trust them, when they submitted their plans regarding seismic design, at least the initial ones, they didn't even meet the standards required by the state regulations. They're not taking seriously the very real risk of earthquake and bedrock tearing on the liner.
But I fault DEQ for not doing anything but their checklist.
Well, they did DEQ pointed it out, but how, I mean.
But are they enforcing it?
Yeah, that's another question. But I mean, how could we take them seriously? What kind of a professional firm would build a structure in a seismic zone and say, I'm not even going to design it to regulations for earthquakes? That is not an entity that we could trust.
Yeah.
No.
They're telling us right now, too, that they're not going to use the western cell. But yet we asked them in meetings, would they please sign that land over to our conservation?
And they refused.
Well, they didn't comment, really. They just nodded their head. But yet you know good and well, if they're going to expand in the future when Charles City, Amelia, or any other landfill in Virginia that is going to be closing, they're going to have to expand it, and they will go to the west side.
That's true. But on
Make the money.
On the subject of the earthquake situation, I blame a lot of it on the state itself, because the state regulations pertaining to movement of the earth refer to fault zones, not seismic plates. There is a difference. We do not have fault zones like they have in California, where you have two plates butting each other.
Right.
We have plates sliding on top of each other. All right.
So
it's a totally different type of movement in the earth when we have an earthquake. All right.
And it's worth mentioning the earthquakes out in California are generally pretty close to the surface, whereas the earthquake that hit Mineral was down deep.
Yep.
3 to 15 miles deep. And so that's whenever that starts shifting all that bedrock and so on for the groundwater, it's just unbelievable.
And this risk we don't have to take. I mean, it's
this is future generations that this is going to affect.
Virginia does not need a place to dispose of trash. We have more than enough capacity in the state of Virginia. And due to mitigation efforts that are always increasing, or that are increasing, like recycling and composting and things like that, and also limiting some out-of-state trash, I guess that is improving somewhat. We don't have any need to build this structure that is going to risk the health of Virginia residents for a very long time. I mean, it's just the risk benefit is absurd.
I think the Board of Supervisors isn't even looking at that. They just see dollar signs. They were promised, correct me, Ron, 1.5 to 2.3 million a year in tipping fees?
1.7 to 2.3, yes.
Okay. Well, right now, they admitted in a meeting with 75 trucks, they will not get $1 million a year.
No, but what they've done is they stated in the host agreement, it's in writing, carved in granite, they will accept the county trash. Now they're saying they will haul the county trash, saving us $775,000 a year. But the county right now is paying about $765,000 a year to have our trash hauled. Okay, Amelia in their negotiations for the host agreement got the waste company to pick up all the county's trash, all the state and government businesses in the county's trash, the fire stations, the schools, and all the local businesses. They're not offering us that. In addition,
because the county Board of Supervisors isn't asking for it.
Right. In addition, Amelia got a guarantee in the host agreement of up to 6 additional transfer stations in the future. We don't have anything like that. And with the development of Cobbs Creek Reservoir District coming online here in a few years, somebody's going to pay for a new transfer station up there, and it's going to end up on the backs of the landfill, of the landowners. the taxpayers.
Right.
People don't realize this is not a done deal. Because the Board of Supervisors signed off on the paperwork doesn't make it a done deal. But the problem I see is the fact that DEQ, even though it's a state agency paid by taxpayers' dollars, and they should be representing us and our concerns, are actually having Greenridge as their customer because Greenridge pays them for each step of the process, right? And the fact of the matter is DEQ's purpose is to determine what level of contamination will they allow County Waste and Greenridge to produce. How much will they let them force upon us? It's not to protect us from all. It's, well, okay, if we give you this authorization, you cannot exceed this much of that. Well, enforcement is the most difficult thing because the periodicity of testing the wells for sampling of leakage coming off the landfill is inadequate. The distance between the well points is inadequate. And they say that the county's employee that they're going to have on site can test any well he wants at any time at the county's cost.
And with prior notice.
Yeah, with prior notice. All right. The tonnage, again, comes up. The host agreement states that every truck that they know the weight of will not be weighed leaving the landfill.
That doesn't make sense at all.
Well, okay, as having previously driven tractor trailer, I can tell you, I can toy with the weight of that truck. I can come in with a partially loaded trailer, you wouldn't know it, right? I could add all kinds of chains and binders and other stuff to the truck as additional carry-on weight, come in with full fuel tanks, right? And my truck is going to weigh X amount. Well, now I come in with a loaded tractor trailer, I dump my trash, and my truck don't weigh X amount anymore. It weighs a lot lower amount. And that's money the taxpayers didn't get because they dumped it free. Every truck in, every truck out should be weighed and documentation provided to the county every month of every vehicle.
I think one issue that we're not addressing here, and we probably should, is the health issues. And people can say, well, how can we define health issues? And we really don't have to go that far to look at what's happening. Let's look at Bristol, Virginia, where, there's major problems down there with both people's medical health and also their air quality. And then Greenridge wants to bring in Charles City. Well, if you actually go and look at and talk to the people in Charles City, they also have a magnitude of health issues. And even the people in Amelia and surrounding areas over there also have health issues because it really doesn't take very much to contaminate the water. And maybe we can't say, well, this is going to happen, but we need to stop this landfill so we don't have to worry about this happening to our people, about our water getting contaminated, about our people getting sick, about our wildlife. Because where they want to put this landfill, it's one of the key areas as far as wetlands and
historical graves.
And historical graves and wildlife.
Wildlife migration.
Wildlife migration.
Yeah.
There's been sightings of eagles not too far from where this landfill site is. We haven't been able to find their nests, but they have to be relatively close. I think one other key thing to look at about our health issues and our water issues is the state of Virginia spends millions, maybe even billions of dollars a year to clean up the Chesapeake Bay area.
James River flows right down to the Chesapeake Bay.
So what we need to do is not concentrate so much on the closest locality to the Chesapeake Bay, but if we start putting an end to things like this landfill coming in up here in Cumberland County, which flows into the James River, and the James River flows into the Chesapeake Bay, then the state of Virginia would be proactive on reducing the taxation that's in Chesapeake Bay.
And it used to be very, very nasty. They got it cleaned up. Now it's nasty again.
Right.
So shame on Virginia for allowing this to happen.
Correct.
Something else I wanted to bring up is, hasn't the federal government had to step into Buckingham and clean up a landfill there?
Yep.
Okay, who pays for that? We the people
We the
pay
people.
for federal stuff,
And so does Bristol
right?
and
Shoe Smith,
everything
I don't know
else.
what's going to happen with them.
Shoesmith is closed now.
What's going to happen when that happens in Cumberland County? Is there any revision saying that Green Ridge, GFL, County Waste, whatever name they want to go by, is going to set aside X amount of dollars
There
for cleanup?
is, but it's inadequate. I mean, the current figure I think is $1 million, but I mean,
That's a joke.
that's like annual living expense.
A super site would require billions of dollars. Millions isn't going to scratch the
Right.
surface.
Bristol has already cost over $30 million, and
And they're still not closed.
and they're still working on it. So that's a joke.
And these landfills that get contaminated and have to, or even just a normally closed one that's full, it takes multiple generations, I'd say, to clean these up. You just don't clean them up in a couple of years. It's there for a long time.
And it remains impermeable land pretty much forever. They put these caps on top of the landfill even when it's closed. Water does not go down into the land anymore. It runs off.
And there goes the water that was feeding back into the ground to our aquifers, and it can't get through these liners, these caps.
Well, people cite Mount Trashmore down in Virginia Beach as an ideal situation where a landfill was closed, it was capped, they developed parks on it, recreation areas, fishing ponds, the whole 9 yards. But like it was just stated, the cap traps water, the soil slides off the cap and contaminates the pond and all the area around it. So Trashmore has to be closed at occasions to public access because of contamination that's come up through the surface of the ground by the landfill. Now, go to air quality for a minute. When they first start, they're saying it's going to be 6 years or more before they start collecting enough methane to do anything with it. Whereas the fact of the matter is landfills have generated sufficient methane in a 12 to 18 month period to have flares to burn it off, and are at the verge of being able to start up power generation stations, okay, burning methane generated by a landfill. Well, we got to deal with that methane in our air until a procedure is set in
And burning it is
place.
toxic to the environment.
And if it's 12 to 18 months before they even start burning it, it's in our air. Now, you talk about the smell of the landfill. Well, they've agreed to not take materials like drywall that's been,
Right.
ground up and broken up because it is a major contributor to odor, along with sludge and a couple other things. But what they're doing is they're installing these high poles with an aerosol spray on it that when they believe the air's at a quality that's dropping, they're going to spray perfume in the air and give us these cover scents. I like to smell the pine trees. I like the smell of the debris on the ground from the trees. I don't care to have my air smell like some kind of foo-foo juice being sprayed in the air.
I think one thing that we need to let people listening to this aware of, we're not only concerned with the landfill, but we're also concerned with fighting to protect our environment. And here in Cumberland County, we're being hit with a lot of different things affecting our environment. Solar farms and landfills are the two major factors right now. And right now, Cumberland County isn't really seeing any revenue from either source. So
It's not a moneymaker for
no, and we don't
Cumberland
want
County.
we don't want people listening to this podcast to think that we're only concerned with the landfill. That is our major concern right now, is to defeat the landfill. This has been going on for over 6 years now, and there's just been no monitoring of what's going on by our county, and that's upsetting to us. And we will continue to fight.
Yeah. In the future, if this gets defeated, or by the worst scenario, they get to come in, there'll be other issues in Virginia for us then to take up. And we will continue fighting for Virginia people for a suitable state to live in and a beautiful environment to enjoy.
And I think it's important to note that our Board of Supervisors just passed a revised comprehensive plan as of December of 2023. And that comprehensive plan does not address the possibility of a landfill. It does address the growth of Cobbs Creek and the potential residents moving into that area. However, the comprehensive plan does not address the landfill. And it's a key factor in what we have here now. We, as residents of Cumberland County, we love going out in the evening and seeing the stars and hearing the natural noises of the environment. We love having good, safe water to drink, clean air to breathe. And there's a growth in Cumberland County right now. And whenever you ask these people why, especially the younger people, why they're moving into Cumberland County, is because they want the rural environment and a good place to bring up their children.
And affordable homes.
And affordable homes.
A lot of people are saying that Cumberland's going to fall on its backside if we don't get this to help fund the county.
We're surviving up to this point and doing well.
From the time this landfill was approved, the county board of supervisors renegotiated our loans, refinanced our loans, and got everything controlled. The problem with Cumberland County was that boards, particularly the 2016 and 2020 board, and the board prior to that, spent excessively without a guaranteed income. They built a brand new middle school, high school, assuming they were going to get funded by the Republic landfill that never developed. And that had to get paid for out of taxpayers' pockets. And by incurring debt of that magnitude, it's put us in a bad situation. Certain things can be done. There's properties that can be developed that we're trying to get a grocery store in. There is a large piece of property by the intersection of 1645 going to Farmville that belongs to the county, has sewer and water available to it, and would make an ideal location for a grocery store. But yet nobody pushes it. Nobody's pushing it forward. It's just, the county has historically been opposed to development because they didn't want to hurt the old timers that lived there. A grocery store was shut down because we had 3 small grocery stores. All 3 of them closed up and we didn't get the big grocery store, right? We didn't get a cement plant over towards 45 and 60 because it was too close to one of the board of supervisors' house, and it got shot down. We didn't get the ICE prison. We didn't get the prison from Brunswick because people did not want to develop. Well, if you resist developing and you're willing to stand for a landfill, where's your moralities? Where are you?
I want to bring up the issue about the grocery store because I know everybody in Cumberland County, that's all they think that we should get is a grocery store. I would love to see a grocery store come in. I have spoken with some people of Food Line again, and here's the reason why you're not going to get a Food Line. You have a Food Line in Dillwyn, and if they were to put a Food Line in Cumberland, then you would have 2 underperforming stores, and they will not do that. They will keep Dillwyn as their main artery up that way, and Cumberland feeds into Dillwyn. So people of Cumberland, please realize this is the reason Food Line won't come in.
Right.
Because, and same thing with a major one. You've got to have the funds to be able to keep it profitable. And if it's going to be mediocre, they're not going to spend their time and money to help a small rural town of less than 10,000 people?
We are well under 10,000 now, yes.
Okay. So we just don't have the population. I wish we could do something about it and not have a Dollar General market, which the prices are ridiculous. And the food quality is not good either. All we can do is band together and try to improve Cumberland County the best we can, and hopefully in the future, things like this may come to us, but it's not going to happen just because this landfill says that they can maybe bring one to us.
It's not going to happen because we have a landfill. I mean, that will suppress economic development for a very long time.
The present growth in the population in this area is expanding westward, coming from Chesterfield, pushing on Midlothian pushing on Powhatan, now coming up to the Cumberland line, and it's going to be in Cumberland soon. So we're going to have Welcome to Cumberland sign followed by a sign saying, look at our dump. Is that how we're going to impress people, get them to move here, get them to settle in our county and help us with our development by putting a dump in front of their face as they drive in the county? And who's going to want to drive by that twice a day going to and from work?
We already have a problem with some water where we had a Beagle testing facility. And at the time, they had a water treatment facility, but I think something happened to it, and it was underperforming, broken, or something. Now, people in that area, now that that has been shut down, have started developing cancer. And they think it may be tied to all of the pollution and the contaminants that went into that water treatment facility going under or defunct.
Very well could have. Yeah.
Okay, what's going to keep this landfill any different? I mean, if a water facility for a medically testing facility for dogs can do this type of pollution, what magnitude is a landfill going to do?
Well,
People need to think about it. And our Board of Supervisors needs to realize they need to take care of the people.
I think that's one of the key things is we need to get more people involved, more people voicing their opinions, more people showing up for the Board of Supervisors meetings.
And any function that we throw out there.
We do have a new Board of Supervisors in. They've made changes to speaking. Residents aren't only confined to public comments right now. There will be periods of time that the people will be asked for their input whenever the board's discussing things. I think also, we have to consider we're into this 6.5 years now. And if we look at it, are we being productive or not? I say we're productive because Green Ridge has not been able to turn over the first shovel of dirt.
Well, when you go back and look at the Board of Supervisors and their poor decision-making process, you got to take in consideration the fact that the planning board turned down the rezoning on it first. And the Board of Supervisors put a little pressure on, they okayed it. One of the representatives of the planning board had a full-page line items of discrepancies he saw with the conditional use permit. But the board totally ignored it, never took it into consideration. You got to remember, this landfill was pushed down our throat in under 30 days.
Yes.
Right? And what's really discouraging is the fact that all of the data they quote, their hydrologists, their geologists, their traffic studies, their environmental, their archaeologists, the whole 9 yards, these are people that are paid by them. And I'm going to tell you, I firmly believe if you tell this archaeologist, I want you to look over this land and I need you to say it's okay to build here and I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars, he's going to give them the answer they want.
Yes.
And that point is provable when it comes to the archaeologists because CCLA had a movement going on where we had people on the ground, on the property, and we found 2 graveyards of what we believe to be African-American slave burials, one of them having 30 to 40 grave sites. They claim their archaeologists have been on the land since 2014, and this was 2018. And they claim there was nothing there, nothing of value, not a problem.
But that's the same Board of Supervisors that swears that they didn't know anything about this landfill till 2018.
That's right.
So how could all these tests be done?
They sought the landfill in 2014. They had to be well aware of the purchase of the land and everything that was going on prior to their announcement in January 2018.
Yes.
And they said...
No, June.
Okay. Well, they claimed they didn't know nothing about it till December of the year before or January of that year.
But yet,
they were well aware of it.
But yet the Planning Commission was receiving reports from the independent consultant that the Board of Supervisors had
And if
hired.
they were so up and up, why did they pose as different LLCs to go in and purchase this land instead of just coming out honestly and saying, we want to purchase it for a landfill? They went in and hid who was purchasing land from people.
They had to do that so it wouldn't be so obvious so people would notice it and sit up and pay attention. That's why. They kept it under wraps. Now, one thing that bothers me is when they were doing the process prior to approval, Jerry Seifer, you've heard the name come up earlier, is the vice president of County Waste Green Ridge. And he came out at that point in time and stated that County Waste was tired of paying the exorbitant rates to dump trash they collect at other landfills. And he wanted a landfill so that when the other landfills are forced to close down, he can demand any rate he wants for them to dump their trash at his landfill.
And that will be coming
And this
from
is
out of
his
state.
legacy? This is the guy we want running the landfill in our county. No, we don't need him. We don't need the landfill.
We need the people of Cumberland County and surrounding areas. Powhatan was very vocal on this. And the Board of Supervisors shut them down speaking at meetings because they were so vocal about it. Because this affects them. They're on that line. They back up to the landfill.
Well, that's why the landfill selected that location. There's a college study from California that lists why they pick certain locations for landfills. And one of them is to put it against a town border or a county border to eliminate part of the resistance.
Yeah.
By the location you could see on the map earlier, they eliminated 50% of the resistance to it by putting it up against Powhatan.
And it's a shame that they aren't allowed to speak out against it because this affects their livelihood.
Well, especially that because the landfill went out 5 or 6 miles in consideration around the property in order to get their environmental justice numbers high enough so that the minorities weren't affected so bad the state would step in, and to get their income average up high enough so it wasn't affecting poverty level people. Okay? Well, if you can go out 5 or 6 miles in consideration for these two things that favor them, shouldn't they be required to insure the wells of everybody within those 5 to 6 miles?
Yes.
Yeah, they should, most definitely. But they're assuring what, up to a half a mile from the cell?
Yes.
Of the 43 properties, I think it is, that are within that area, they own all but 17 of them. So, they're giving assurances to people that, they can buy them off easy. Because once it gets past that half mile, they have no responsibility any longer.
I want to ask the people of Cumberland County and surrounding areas, because it affects all of Virginia, to please don't keep their head in the sand and think this is a done deal. There's nothing that they can do about it and their voices can't be heard. You can be heard. We're waiting to listen from you. And when we have these events that try to spread as much information to the public as possible, so you don't think that this is a done deal. It is not a done deal. We'll fight to the very end. Please just come out and help us get the voices heard from everyone. Come to the Board of Supervisors meetings that meets the second Tuesday of every month.
And CCLA will have a booth set up just outside of the Grape Festival in Powhatan on October the 5th. So if you're going to the wine festival, stop by and see us. We'll give you plenty of information, or you can visit us on our website at cclava.com, and we have a encyclopedia full of information up there about what we've done. We have a listing of how to contact the local Board of Supervisors, the state delegates, the federal employee or federal, officials, and everything like that. So, like it's been said previously, we do need your support. If we want to fight this, if we want to keep Virginia for lovers and not for landfills, now you need to come out and support us and help us through this.
You need to help also AMMD keep this away from their net.
Right, AMMD Pine Grove Project.
Recognized historical site. And do you know their website?
Yeah, you just said it. It's
AMMD.
PineGroveProject.com.
Yep.
Please go out and look at their information too and be aware of what is happening environmental injustice.
Please don't sit back and have the "it's not in my backyard" mentality. You're on the roads with these trucks. You're breathing the air if you're downwind from this location.
Your children are in your cars.
Yep. You're looking at future generations being affected. They say that the 3 landfills Cumberland had that didn't have liners never leaked. DEQ proves otherwise, because for 6 years after one of them closed, they were doing monitoring, and the county had to get on their knees and beg DEQ to raise the amount limit on leakage so they could close that landfill. The 40 millimeter, I believe it is, or 60 millimeter thick liner they're putting in, I've done the research on HDPE liners. They do not withstand motion. So if you have rock with 2 foot of dirt on top of it,
It's going to.
Then you have a liner, and then you have billions of tons of trash on top of that. If there is a quake, no matter how minor, the seams of this HDPE liner will separate, or the material itself will tear, with the rocks and stuff underneath wearing against it, and the material above pressing on it. It's not a safe situation at all. This thing is destructive to all of Central Virginia and all of Virginia, all the way down to the Chesapeake Bay.
Just be aware it's not a done deal. Please help us continue the fight.
Also, we have a petition up on our website that can be signed, and our group is operated thoroughly by donations. So we have up on our website, we have the ability that you can go in and make a donation. We have the address to send the donations to. We have a GoFundMe page set up, and we also have a link there to PayPal. But we need your support in order to keep not only Cumberland clean and an environment that people want to come and live in, but all of Virginia.